In the stillness of midnight, when shadows stretch and the air feels alive, something stirs, something unspeakable. Welcome to Midnight Terrors, where the ordinary becomes sinister and the dark corners of your mind come to life. Brace yourself, because tonight, your nightmares are waiting. An unassuming leather-bound diary in a small suburban home left behind after the death of Emily Matthews, a soft-spoken woman who was the epitome of ordinary. Her neighbors described her as the kind of person who wouldn't hurt a fly. But as her grieving husband, Daniel, cleans out her belongings, the diary falls into his hands, leading him into a nightmare he never imagined. Emily Matthews was the last person anyone would suspect of harboring darkness. Her days were spent gardening, baking pies, and volunteering at the local shelter. But as Daniel delves into the diary, it unveils a sinister duality to Emily's seemingly mundane life. The pages are filled with cryptic remarks like, "The unworthy leave stains on this world. I am the hand that wipes them clean. And sin hides in plain sight, smiling, laughing, until I snuff it out." The neat, elegant handwriting contrasts starkly with the darkness of the words, each line dripping with a chilling mix of moral conviction and cold detachment. What begins as vague musings soon escalates into detailed accounts of her twisted cleansing rituals that leave Daniel questioning everything he thought he knew about his wife. Daniel is unnerved but dismisses it as his late wife's creative writing. He recalls how Emily often kept to herself, but was always kind to him and their neighbors. One entry stands out. January 5th, he smiled too much, too bright. It was like a stain on the fabric of the world. I fixed it. Intrigued and slightly disturbed, Daniel continues reading. The diary describes the systematic planning and execution of murders. Emily meticulously targeted people she deemed undeserving of happiness, including a cheerful cashier, a jogger in the park, and even a distant acquaintance from their neighborhood. Each entry pulls Daniel deeper into Emily's chillingly methodical mind, where every word reveals a twisted logic that had gone unnoticed behind her serene exterior. Emily's handwriting remains precise, neat, almost artistic, a stark contrast to the macabre thoughts it conveys. Her calm demeanor had been a facade, masking a warped sense of justice. "They were parasites," one entry reads, "feeding off a world they didn't deserve to inhabit. I was simply the cure." The diary is disturbingly detailed, outlining how Emily meticulously selected her victims. A neighbor's incessant laughter, a barista's overly friendly demeanor, a jogger's confident stride, all were enough to seal their fate. She described how she laced homemade cookies with poison for the neighbor's potluck, arranged a slip-and-fall accident for the jogger on a rain-slicked bridge, and manipulated the barista into drinking a special brew. But it was the moments before their deaths that Emily seemed to savor most. The way their eyes widened when they realized, when the truth hit them. That was my reward. As Daniel reads, fragmented memories surface like jagged pieces of a broken mirror. He recalls the way Emily would sometimes pause mid-conversation in public, her gaze fixed on a stranger with unnerving intensity. "What are you staring at?" he had asked once, and she'd laughed it off, saying she loved people-watching. Her fascination with murder mysteries suddenly feels more sinister. She had claimed it was harmless entertainment, but now Daniel sees how carefully she studied them, how the plots of those stories mirrored the scenarios she created in real life. And then there were the subtle ways she could bend situations to her will, always coming out unscathed. When a coworker accused her of stealing credit for a project, Emily emerged blameless, while the coworker was mysteriously fired a week later after a scandal no one could trace back to her. One particular memory sends a shiver down his spine. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Emily had baked a special dinner for them. He remembers the candlelight, her soft smile, and the strange way she watched him eat, her eyes glinting with something he couldn't quite place. "You trust me, don't you?" she had asked as he finished his meal. At the time, he'd laughed, brushing it off as a playful remark. Now, with the diary in his hands, he wonders if he'd unknowingly passed one of her sick little tests. The weight of it all crushes him as he realizes the truth. Emily's crimes weren't spontaneous acts of anger or desperation. They were deliberate, calculated, and executed with chilling precision, and all the while, she had been hiding in plain sight, her mask of innocence fooling even him. Quick pause. Help spread the word. A simple recommendation from you to a friend helps us reach more people and lets us keep creating content you love. Thanks for being part of this journey. Daniel's breath catches as he flips to an entry titled The Perfect Companion. At first, Emily's words feel like a love letter, filled with admiration for his kindness and devotion. "Daniel is my rock," she writes. "So predictable, so reliable, my perfect partner." But as he reads further, the tone shifts. The praise takes on an unsettling edge, dripping with calculation. A man like him is invaluable, steady, unassuming, and utterly blind to the truth. The words chill him to the bone. Emily hadn't loved him in the way he thought. She had used him, her perfect companion, as the ultimate shield. "No one suspects the quiet wife of the sweet, doting husband," she wrote. "He's my greatest weapon, my most convincing alibi, the mask I wear." But it's the final paragraph that makes Daniel's hands tremble. Emily confesses she had been toying with the idea of killing him. "I thought about ending him so many times," she admits with eerie nonchalance. "But where's the fun in that? He's too delightful, too trusting. Watching him squirm without ever knowing the truth, that's a game I'm not ready to give up. Not yet." Daniel stares at the page, his pulse pounding in his ears. He remembers moments, her lingering smiles, the way she'd watch him while he slept. He'd thought it was love. Now he realizes it was something far darker. Emily hadn't just deceived him. She had been playing with him, like a predator savoring its prey. And in that moment, Daniel wonders if he's truly alone in the house, or if her game isn't over yet. Daniel's trembling hands trace over the final, unfinished entry dated just one day before Emily's death. Her words crawl across the page like living shadows. "The clock is ticking, but I am not afraid. My work isn't done yet, but it will continue, even without me." The neat handwriting is eerily steady, as though she had written it with absolute certainty. The implications coil around Daniel's mind like a snake. Was this some morbid farewell, or a promise? That night, the atmosphere in the house shifts. The air grows heavier, and the once familiar creaks of the old wooden floor take on a sinister cadence. Daniel jolts awake to the sound of faint tapping, like fingernails drumming on a tabletop. It echoes through the silence, slow and deliberate, coming from the direction of the living room, where the diary sits. Summoning his courage, Daniel steps into the hallway, his breath visible in the suddenly freezing air. The tapping stops, replaced by faint, irregular footsteps. They don't move closer. Instead, they pace, as if something unseen is restless. The house feels alive, pulsing with an unnatural energy. Then come the whispers, soft, almost gentle, but chillingly familiar. They echo from the walls, unintelligible at first, until one phrase becomes unmistakably clear. "You trust me, don't you? You trust me, don't you?" Heart pounding, Daniel rushes back to the diary. It lies open on the table, though he swore he'd left it shut. The pages flutter, as if stirred by an invisible hand, and when they settle, the last page bears a new message, written in Emily's handwriting. "You can't hide from me." Panic sets in. Daniel grabs the diary and hurls it into the fireplace, watching as the flames consume it. The fire roars unnaturally high, casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. For a moment, he feels a sliver of relief. But then the whispers return, louder this time, seeming to emanate from the very air around him. That night, Daniel dreams of Emily, not as the loving wife he thought he knew, but as a twisted version of herself. Her eyes are empty black voids, her smile stretching impossibly wide as she whispers, "You thought fire could stop me? You never understood the game." He wakes drenched in sweat, only to find his reflection in the bedroom mirror isn't his own. It's Emily's, staring back at him, grinning. The nightmares persist, growing more vivid with each passing night. Daniel starts hearing her voice during the day, soft and teasing, just at the edge of his hearing. Objects in the house shift inexplicably. Her favorite teacup, long packed away, reappears on the kitchen counter. And though the diary was reduced to ashes, Daniel finds scraps of its pages scattered throughout the house, each bearing the same haunting phrase, "I'm always watching." The story crescendos with Daniel unraveling, his guilt and paranoia consuming him. Was he her accomplice, her pawn, or simply her next victim? As he stares at his reflection one final time, he sees Emily's face twist into a cruel smirk as she whispers, "It's your turn now."